Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Anand Bhattacharya. Coming up in the next hour. Preliminary investigation into the June 12 Air India crash reveals both the engines had shut down after fuel supply to them were cut off within seconds of takeoff. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses employment fair held at 47 locations across India. Appointment letters distributed to over 51,000 youth. US State Department begins layoffs. More than 1,300 State Department employees fired in a downsizing ordered by President Donald Trump. All eyes on KL Rahul and the Indian middle order to deliver under pressure on day 3 of the Lord's Test. England aims for a lead. India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau has released a preliminary report on the June 12 crash of Air India Boeing 7878 aircraft in Ahmedabad, revealing both the engines had shut down within seconds of takeoff. According to the report, the aircraft achieved the maximum recorded airspeed of 180 knots IAS at about 8:42 UTC, and immediately thereafter, the Engine 1 and Engine 2 fuel cutoff switches transitioned from run to cutoff position one after another with a time gap of 1 second. The engine N1 and N2 began to decrease from their takeoff values as the fuel supply to the engines was cut off. The report acknowledged that the CCTV footage obtained from the airport showed ram air turbine getting deployed during the initial climb immediately after liftoff. No significant bird activity is observed in the vicinity of the flight path. The aircraft started to lose altitude before crossing the airport perimeter wall. Meanwhile, Air India acknowledged the receipt of the 15-page preliminary report and said it continues to fully cooperate with AAIB and other authorities. In a post on X, Air India stated that Air India stands in solidarity with the families and those affected by the AI-171 accident. We continue to mourn the loss and are fully committed to providing support during this difficult time. We acknowledge the receipt of the preliminary report released by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau today, that is the 12th of July 2025. Air India is working closely with stakeholders, including the regulators. We continue to fully cooperate with AAIB and other authorities as their investigation progresses. Given the active nature of the investigation, we are unable to comment on specific details and refer all such inquiries to the AAIB. India's Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu urged caution after the release of a preliminary report. On Saturday, he emphasized that this is only an initial finding and urged everyone to wait for the final report before drawing conclusions. Naidu also expressed confidence in India's aviation sector, saying the country has the finest pilots and crew in the world.
Report right now, and from the ministry we are analyzing the report, but I think it would be better if we can comment on it once the final report comes in. I don't think we should jump into any conclusions on this. I truly believe we have the most wonderful workforce in terms of pilots and the crew in the whole world. I have to appreciate all the efforts the pilots and the crew in this country are putting into the aviation. They are the backbone of this civil aviation.
Jessica Taneja, reporter, is joining us from the newsroom live for more on this. Jessica, the fuel switches on board the ill-fated Air India plane are now under the scanner. What should one make of the cockpit audio recording as detailed in the preliminary probe report?
Well, firstly, the preliminary report doesn't tell us whose audio is what. In fact, the exchange that we've been able to gather between the pilots in those crucial moments before the Air India plane crashed in Ahmedabad was that one pilot asking the other co-pilot that why did you switch it off, meaning why was the engine fuel control in the cut-off position. It should have been in the run position, which is what would then ensure fuel reaching the engines, which would fire it and potentially lead to its acceleration and as well as a safe flight. But that exactly didn't turn out to be the case in this particular incident, as we've seen that took place on June 12, a fatal accident. So with the exchanges between them, no clarity as such, and waiting for more information, particularly on the aspect of that exchange. But there is certainly a question on the fuel control switch, which then points us to what exactly led to its dysfunction, or what is the mystery behind its switch to cut off and then run. Because as we know, and as civil aviation experts have been pointing out, and it's very basic knowledge about aircraft as well, that when an aircraft is about to take off in the cockpit, the pilots usually turn off the fuel the fuel control switch, which means it's in the run position, that it's ready, and that the fuel would then fire the engines. But as the report suggests now, and from the lone survivor as well, his words in his interview as well, that there was a moment briefly in air where, when the fluctuation started, as if the plane was stable and the engines did not have enough fuel, or perhaps there was a dysfunction with the switch. And now the entirety of this, investigation will be focused on whether these switches were the problem. Now, important to also tell our viewers about one more important thing that has been pointed out by this report, which brings us to the US Federal Aviation Administration's report issued in 2018, which was a special airworthiness information bulletin. And it had said, and I quote, that potential disengagement of the fuel control switch locking feature needs to be looked at. This because another aircraft, which is the 737, this was the 787, pardon me. So the fuel switches in that seem to have shown some problems. And these are Boeing aircraft. The engines are by General Electric. So Boeing, as we know, has been quite notorious with its acceptability of problematic softwares that have led to, horrific crashes, similar to the Air India crash, but not to the extent that we saw, which in aviation history, it's been 40 years since something as devastating as this took place. So bringing back the question on, those particular switch controls, the fuel control switch, what exactly is that, and how problematic was it if in case that issue was flagged many, many years ago and Boeing just failed to sort of, work on it, or were there not enough, red flags to identify this particular technical snag? And that is where the investigation will now lead into whether this switch box, in fact, was problematic, or there will be, more suggestions into looking at what was the exact full conversation between the pilots before they called Mayday, before that fateful crash. All the investigation rests on that. But let's not forget that it is a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. There have been complaints about it. This is a unique feature of complaint that we are now witnessing when it comes to its fuel control switch. In the past, there have been many that are pointed out. Reports of pilots training on simulation softwares rather than getting an actual flight experience of the new softwares that Boeing was installing on its aircraft. So there are certainly a lot of questions to be answered here, Munman.
Absolutely. We'll take that forward, Jessica. Also, the pilots made a valiant attempt, we know, to save the aircraft. I understand that within 10 to 14 seconds of the fuel cutoff, they had moved both fuel switches back to the run position. Both engines began automatic restart sequences, with engine 1 showing signs of recovery and engine 2 attempting to relight as per the report. But then why was the recovery not possible? Will this also be looked into, you think, in the final report?
Well, certainly, because the plane, I think for about 30 odd seconds after takeoff, was on air and had acquired a certain altitude, which would have led to further acceleration. But what it did eventually, or what eventually did happen, was that the plane decelerated again because of this technical snag or the mysterious, alignment of the switch to either the run position or the cut-off position. So, as you stated, the pilots did try to ensure that both engines are on run position, because there are very few instances, Munmun, where the pilots would have engaged in something where would have led to a sort of misunderstanding of what was happening, because these are such important switches. So, for example, if there's a fire on one engine, these are dual engine aircraft. So that if there's fire on or anything that has gone wrong with one engine, the pilots, through that fuel control switch, can position that switch on the cutoff position, which would then prevent further damage to the aircraft and have a possibility of saving, or being able to make a safe landing for that case. So in this particular mechanism and the report that we've seen, the preliminary report does say that there was no particular problem with the engine where the pilot would have to, switch the fuel control to cut off instead of run. So I think we'll wait for those details, which would, as suggested by the preliminary report, take about a year to come out with all the details, with all the cockpit data, voice recorder and other details that now emerge from this as to what really happened. And further investigations into Boeing would also reveal whether this particular technical snag, which I said was pointed out by the Special Airworthiness Information Bulletin issued by the Federal Aviation Administration of United States, was also something that could have been factored in. It is very easy to point fingers at pilots and certainly ignore that these man-made planes, after all, cannot be the perfect ride you think they would be.
Absolutely. Well, stay with us, Jessica. Joining us for perspective also is Dr. Sumit Suseelan. And Dr. Sumit continues to be with us. Dr. Sumit, like a reporter has also been saying, that there's a lot of focus around fuel switch control and how, whether they were switched on, whether they were switched off, so on and so forth, considering the conversation that is now part of the preliminary report, now recorded, which was there in the cockpit between the two pilots. Do you think that the focus of the investigation could well be on this going forward?
Yeah, the focus will be on the control switch right now, because as per the report, when we are going through the report, we understood that this switch came off immediately after the takeoff. And it means that the one and another switch, the engine 1 and engine 2, it took a 2-second gap to get shut off. And immediately after the engine got shut off, the captain had tried to switch it on. But normally these type of aircrafts take around 90 seconds time to revive the engine. And they didn't have time more than 10 seconds and the aircraft came down. So now, as we can see, the aircraft, the AAIB had given a report where the aircraft manufacturer like Boeing and GE engine, they're not claiming anything from their side. Right now, they're just waiting for another report, which is expected to come after 5 months now. So in the detailed report, we can understand like what is the major issue with the...
No, but I'm simply asking you, Dr. Suseelan, that going forward, do you think that considering what has come out in the preliminary report, the focus is going to be on the switch control mechanism for the fuel?
Yes, the entire focus will be now only on the switch, where the GE engine and the aircraft, they had wrote out that there is no involvement of all these things. Only the focus should be on these features now.
Okay. Also, another question, Jessica, that I would want to come back to you with is that after, like you said, the FAA flagged the concern in 2018 around fuel control switch, we understand that Air India did not carry out the suggested inspections because the bulletin was quote-unquote advisory rather than mandatory. So the airline had replaced the aircraft's throttle control module twice, once in 2019 and then in 2023. But these replacements were not related to fuel switch issues, we are being told. So the question is that whether this particular area of concern will also be looked into on whether oversight precipitated matters.
Well, there have been issues with aircraft maintenance, both ground staff and engineering staff. It has been widely reported in the media as well, and there are figures to suggest that that has been the case in the past. But what is important to understand also, Manmohan, is, this is a complex matter in its entirety. And one fatal air crash that we've seen in the last 40 years, and now in question is the fuel control switch, which has never been the case many a times, because this is a very guarded box, with a control, with a proper lock mechanism. So there has to be a lot of understanding and a lot of technicalities to be understood about this particular mechanism, and what is that mysterious cause that led the fuel control switch to go on cut-off position instead, when it was instead of the run position it should have stayed on, as was the case when it was taking off. And experts, I'm sure, will be able to answer and be able to give us more perspective on this. But it is for a reason that the entire investigation has seemed to focus on this fuel control switch, as you point out, because there is nothing else that suggests. I mean, if you'd recall with conspiracy theories broadcasted everywhere, suggesting that there could have been something wrong with the wings or the landing gear. There were all kinds of, analysis put forth for the public to view. But this preliminary report does suggest that there is, a lot needs to be figured out and pointed out as to how that a particular, fuel control switch mechanism must have really been at the heart of this entire crash. And whether it's the pilots or Boeing or the engines, clearly only time will tell, as we wait for this complete report, which could, as I said, take another year.
Okay. Jessica, stay with us. Dr. Suseelan is currently not with us, but we'll be going back to him in a bit. But, as information kept coming out and we started drawing our analysis from the preliminary probe findings, we were looking at various possibilities and what could really have happened. So now the question is, what are the probably causes that have been ruled out? The probable causes that have been ruled out, for instance, a bird strike. If you could, share your thoughts on that.
That's correct. Probable cause of a bird strike, which was initially a point of consideration, if not one of the main points of, or the main reasons for this fatal air crash. But certainly that has been ruled out. Apart from that, some engine failure as well. There were also suggestions that the fuel tank was overfilled, and perhaps that also could have created or caused some trouble. All of these, or pilot error as well, in more ways than one, that now is under speculation. So there were multiple reasons given for this particular crash, but I think none of them have made it to the preliminary report as to the question of, the fuel control switch, which certainly looks like, on anticipated lines now will be the center of the entire investigation, and perhaps make Boeing, answer a few questions as well, since this particular control mechanism has, withheld scrutiny. It has been able to sort of been, installed in various planes as well, and given the kind of guarantee that Boeing has offered with its plane after looking at some of its aircraft being grounded, if you'd recall, just a few years ago because of its software glitches. There has to be a lot of trust build-up mechanism for Boeing, but that hasn't been the case. And certainly, the causes that were initially pointing in a direction where it could have been an aircraft failure, for example, due to no maintenance and lack of engineering staff who could have ensured and seen through the safety mechanisms thoroughly, because it is important. And before takeoff, there are engineers who take rounds, more than 3 rounds, to check with all the things, and sometimes the plane is even grounded for hours in case the engineers on the ground feel that there have to be some parts that need to be fixed. So all of those things have been ruled out, and certainly now the question rests on the mystery switching of the fuel control mechanism from run to cut off mid-air.
We leave it at that. Jessica Taneja reporting from the newsroom. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday virtually attended the ceremony of the distribution of appointment letters to 51,000 people. This was at the 16th Rozgar Mela or employment fair that was held at 47 locations across India. The newly appointed youth will be recruited across central government ministries and departments. PM Modi congratulated the young individuals on bringing their service in various departments, emphasizing that despite different roles, their common goal is national service, guided by the principle of citizen first. While addressing the event, PM highlighted that India is being ranked among the top countries with the highest equality in the world.
आज वर्ल्ड बैंक जैसी बड़ी वैश्विक संस्थाएं खुल करके इस काम के लिए भारत की प्रशंसा कर रही है, दुनिया को भारत को मॉडल के रूप में प्रस्तुत करती है। भारत को दुनिया के सबसे अधिक इक्वलिटी वाले शीर्ष के देशों में रखा जा रहा है, यानी असमानता तेजी से कम हो रही है, हम समानता की ओर आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, ये भी विश्व अब नोटिस कर रहा है।
PM Modi also added that these young people are playing a significant role in nation building. PM said that these Rozgar Mela reflects our government's commitment to empowering the youth and making them catalysts in building a developed India.
आज दुनिया मान रही है कि भारत के पास दो असीमित शक्तियां हैं, एक डेमोग्राफी, दूसरी डेमोक्रेसी, यानी सबसे बड़ी युवा आबादी और सबसे बड़ा लोकतंत्र। युवाओं का यह सामर्थ्य हमारी भारत के उज्जवल भविष्य की सबसे बड़ी पूंजी भी है और सबसे बड़ी गारंटी भी है। और हमारी सरकार इसी पूंजी को समृद्धि का सूत्र बनाने में दिन रात जुटी है।
India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar attended the 4th convocation ceremony of the Indian Institute of Information Technology in Kota on Saturday. He was felicitated by the Governor of Rajasthan, Haribhau Bagde, the state ministers, along with other dignitaries. Addressing the event, Vice President Dhankar said that education is the most impactful and transformative mechanism to bring about equality and to strengthen democratic values. Vice President Dhankar also planted saplings at IIIT Kota.
Education is the most impactful, transformative mechanism to bring about equality, to cut into inequities, and to give cutting edge to democratic values. IIIT Kota is helping forge the foundation of digital India, now a global need. It is not merely imparting technical knowledge, it is much beyond. It is shaping the contours of a new confident and technologically sovereign India.
India's Home Minister Amit Shah inaugurated the newly built BJP Kerala unit's headquarters in Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala on Saturday. At the inauguration, Amit Shah planted a sapling in front of the office building and also unveiled the sculpture of BJP's former state president, late K.G. Marar. The state-of-the-art office is the 7-story and 60,000 square feet building. Addressing a gathering at Viksit Keralam Sammelan, the Home Minister said that without the development of the southern states, a developed India is simply not possible.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लिए कार्यालय ये हमारे लिए मंदिर की स्थान जितना पवित्र स्थान है। श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने विकसित भारत की संकल्पना देश के 140 करोड़ लोगों के सामने रखी है। विकसित भारत का रास्ता विकसित केरलम से होकर ही जाता है। दक्षिण के शक्तिशाली राज्यों के विकास के बगैर विकसित भारत संभव ही नहीं।
Last year, India actively engaged on the world stage, showcasing a pragmatic foreign policy that significantly boosted its international standing. The Ministry of External Affairs steered these efforts, advancing national interests by strengthening ties with partners, pushing for reforms in global bodies, and championing the Global South. Despite ongoing global economic shifts and geopolitical tensions, India remained a proactive voice in major international discussions. A key focus was India's continued leadership in the G20. Building on its previous presidency, India collaborated with Brazil and South Africa in the Troika. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's contributions at the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro were widely praised for their human-centric approach. A notable outcome was the African Union's first participation as a permanent G20 member, a direct result of India's efforts in 2023. India also hosted the third Voice of Global South Summit, where PM Modi proposed a global development compact to foster sustainable development across the region. Beyond multilateral fora, India deepened bilateral relationships through numerous Foreign Office consultations with 35 countries, reinforcing diplomatic ties globally. Closer to home, India reaffirmed its neighborhood first policy. Leaders from several neighboring countries attended the new Indian government swearing-in ceremony in June, highlighting, in fact, strong regional bonds. India's commitment to humanitarian aid continued, particularly in Afghanistan, where it provided crucial supplies and scholarships, including for women working with UN bodies. This comprehensive engagement, from high-level summits to direct aid and bilateral dialogues, underscored India's dynamic role in shaping a more equitable and stable global environment throughout 2024. Maratha military landscapes of India have been added to the UNESCO World Heritage List, becoming India's 44th property to receive this global recognition. The historic decision was taken during the 47th session of the World Heritage Committee in Paris on Friday. This global accolade celebrates India's enduring cultural legacy, showcasing its diverse traditions of architectural brilliance, regional identity, and historical continuity. Located across a range of diverse terrains, from coastal outposts to hilltop strongholds, this extraordinary network of 12 forts reflect a sophisticated understanding of geography and strategy. Together, they form a cohesive military landscape that highlights the innovation and regional adaptation of fortification traditions in India. India ranks 6th globally and 2nd in the Asia-Pacific region for the most number of World Heritage Sites. Prime Minister, Culture Minister, along with Chief Minister of Maharashtra, lauded the historic milestone and congratulated the people of India for this achievement. Taking to social media platform X, PM Modi said, and I quote, "Every Indian is elated with this recognition. These Maratha military landscapes include 12 majestic forts, 11 of which are in Maharashtra and 1 in Tamil Nadu. When we speak of the glorious Maratha Empire, we associate it with good governance, military strength, cultural pride, and emphasis on social welfare. The great rulers inspire us with their refusal to bow to any injustice. I call upon everyone to go visit these forts and learn about the rich history of the Maratha Empire." Security forces managed to secure the surrender of 23 Maoist cadres in Sukma in central Indian state of Chhattisgarh. These cadres carried a cumulative bounty of 1.18 crore rupees. Many of these cadres were involved in grave acts of violence. According to the police, the surrender of the Maoist cadres reflects a growing realization among the cadres that violence has no future. The government has robust policies in place to support their reintegration into society with dignity and opportunity. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov meets North Korean counterpart. Taiwan is carrying out its annual military drill.
This week, we meet people who are showing us that real change and action does not really have to be perfect or loud. It just has to begin somewhere.
What looks like a mere damp swamp is actually a mud flat. But this is the basis of the coastal food system. It provides food for several bird species and other life forms.
As the saying goes, we serve society for our own well-being and to better our community. Seeing improvements in our area brings us satisfaction.
The approach generally adopted by India towards Antarctica is that of the common heritage of mankind, humankind, as one would say right now.
Trees are our lifesavers. They give us oxygen, and it's unfair to harm them by hammering iron nails into them just for the sake of ads.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. A recap of the headlines. Preliminary investigation into the June 12 Air India crash reveals both the engines had shut down after fuel supply to them were cut off within seconds of takeoff. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses employment fair held at 47 locations across India. Appointment letters distributed to over 51,000 youth. U.S. State Department begins layoffs. More than 1,300 State Department employees fired in a downsizing ordered by President Donald Trump. Well, more than 1,300 State Department employees were fired since Friday in a downsizing that was ordered by President Trump as the administration of Donald Trump presses ahead with an unprecedented overhaul of its U.S. diplomatic corps, a move critics say will undermine U.S. interest abroad. The layoffs cover 1,107 civil service and 246 foreign service officers based in the United States. The layoffs of the department came 3 days after the Supreme Court cleared the way for the Trump administration to begin carrying out its plan to gut the entire government departments. The conservative-dominated top court lifted a temporary block imposed by a lower court on Trump's plans to lay off potentially tens of thousands of employees. The United States on Friday announced for the first time sanctions against Cuban President Canel for his role in the regime's brutality towards the Cuban people. The U.S. State Department was restricting visas for the president and other high-ranking government officials. Other officials sanctioned included Defense Minister Alvaro Lopez Miera and Interior Minister Lazaro Alberto Alvarez Casas. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio accused the Cuban government of suppressing dissent and mismanaging national resources, pointing to the regime's harsh response to the July 2021 mass protests, the largest public demonstrations since the 1959 revolution. The protests, which resulted in hundreds of arrests, dozens of injuries and one death, drew global condemnation. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met North Korean Foreign Minister Choi Son-hui on Saturday in Wonsan, continuing a series of high-level Moscow visits to Pyongyang. During the talks, Lavrov thanked North Korea's leadership for what he called a very important contribution to the just cause of liberating Russian territories.
We are sincerely grateful to the leadership of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, all military personnel, soldiers and officers who demonstrated excellent combat training and made a very important contribution to the just cause of liberating Russian territories.
Russia launched a fresh wave of drone and missile strikes in Ukraine's striking several regions in the west of the country on Saturday. At least 2 people were killed and 14 others injured when Russian drones and a missile struck residential areas. Ukraine claimed that the strike destroyed buildings and firefighters dousing smoldering debris. Almost 5,000 people have been killed in Haiti since October 2024 as gang violence has escalated, particularly around the capital Port-au-Prince, according to a UN report. The surge in violence has displaced hundreds of thousands amid the humanitarian crisis, destabilizing the country and raising concerns of spillover effects in the region. Between October 2024 and June 2025, 4,864 people have been killed in Haiti amid worsening gang violence nationwide. Port-au-Prince and surrounding areas accounted for more than 1,000 of the deaths. Gangs have increasingly taken control across Haiti, overwhelming local security forces and forcing international aid organizations to scale back operations and forcing tens of thousands of residents from their homes. At least 23 people have died after an attack on a monastery in a village in Myanmar's Sagaing region. The monastery in the village of Lintalu was hit in the early hours of Friday morning. The monastery housed around 200 people displaced by nearby fighting between the army and pro-democracy forces. Myanmar has been gripped by conflict since the military suppressed protests against the 2021 coup that unseated the elected government led by Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi. Days after a devastating 7.7 magnitude earthquake hit Sagaing on the 28th of March, the government announced a temporary ceasefire to provide humanitarian relief. However, the military has continued to launch airstrikes and artillery attacks on rebel-controlled areas. U.S. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump visited the Texas community of Kerrville on Friday, a week after flooding claimed at least 120 lives in the region. Trump, the First Lady, and Texas Governor Greg toured areas near the river, receiving a briefing from first responders amid debris left in the wake of the flood. President Trump defended the state and federal response to deadly flash flooding as he visited the Hill Country region where many children died a week ago. Search teams on Friday continued combing through muddy debris in central Texas, looking for the many still listed as missing. No survivors have been found since the day of the floods. The devastation of flash floods is clearly visible across Texas. Homes are submerged, roads are torn apart, and communities are left reeling from sudden destruction.
The search for the missing continues. The people that are doing it are unbelievable people. We're also taking historic action to ensure that such a nightmare never happens again. We're not going to let a thing like this happen again where it can wreak this kind of devastation.
A tornado warning abruptly interrupted in Iowa Speedway, forcing attendees to seek shelter as storm conditions swept through the area. While the storm caused a temporary disruption, the abnormal activity in the sky signaled the rapid approach of severe weather, prompting officials to immediately suspend the event for everyone's safety. The same abnormal activity was witnessed in Maryland when a rare shelf cloud was seen in the region a few days back. The rare cloud formation that forms along the foremost edge of a thunderstorm's gust front signals intensifying conditions. The U.S. National Weather Service issued a severe thunderstorm watch for parts of Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania that prompted tornado warnings. Following an unusually dry and scorching June, French firefighters in the Gironde region have presented a strengthened wildfire response strategy aimed at preventing a repeat of the devastating blazes that swept through the area in the summer of 2022. The improved plan includes expanded aerial support, faster mobilization, and a proactive positioning of crews in high-risk zones. With climate change continuing to heighten wildfire risks in southern France, officials are urging vigilance while highlighting the critical role of early intervention. Moving to weather updates in India now. Monsoon tightens its grip across India. The Indian Met Department has issued an orange alert for East Rajasthan as well as for Madhya Pradesh. Capital New Delhi is witnessing a warm and humid July 12th with temperatures peaking at 37 degrees Celsius. The coming week signals increased monsoon activity with rains expected on Sunday, bringing cooler temperatures but also potential flooding. In Jammu and Kashmir, isolated heavy rainfall is likely between July 14 and 17, while Odisha and Bihar can witness rains till early next week. In the northern state of Himachal Pradesh, the Mandi-Kullu highway near the Pando Dam remained blocked on Saturday due to flash floods that triggered a cloud burst. Restoration work is currently underway to clear the debris and restore the highway for traffic movement. Heavy rainfall has triggered multiple disruptions across the valley, resulting in landslides and continuous rockfall in the area. Heavy rains drenched the city of Lucknow in the North Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, offering long-awaited relief from sweltering heat. The rains also triggered widespread waterlogging, traffic disruptions and power outages across several areas. While Kanpur in UP witnessed intense rainfall on Saturday morning, leading to severe waterlogging across various parts of the city, residents were seen struggling to move their vehicles through submerged streets. The situation worsened as overflowing drains caused rainwater to spill onto the roads, disrupting normal life. Under the Swachhata Pakhwada Fortnight 2025, the Indian Met Department organized a Shramdan cleanup drive in New Delhi on Saturday. Led by Director General of IMD, Dr. Mrityunjay Mohapatra, the drive focused on clearing waste around the campus and ensuring proper segregation of decomposable and non-decomposable materials. Dr. Mohapatra emphasized the need to responsibly separate plastic, paper and biodegradable waste for a cleaner environment. The collective effort highlights IMD's commitment to a greener, cleaner and more sustainable workplace. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. 5 people were injured during the 6th day of the running of the bulls at Pamplona's San Fermin Festival in Spain. Bulls from the Jose Escolar Ranch completed the 875 meters route in 2 minutes and 42 seconds, while hundreds of participants traditionally dressed in white with red neckerchiefs took part in the run, in fact, and the 7-day festival draws thousands of tourists and is the most famous bull running event. Taiwan deployed its advanced HIMARS rocket systems on Saturday as part of its largest annual military drills. The vehicles were seen in Taichung during the 4th day of the 10-day Han Kuang exercises, with live fire drills expected next week. Military observers are closely watching the HIMARS deployment as the system has proven effective in Ukraine's defense against Russia. Fans of Bad Bunny celebrated as the Latin music superstar kicked off his residency in San Juan, Puerto Rico on Friday. Fans were holding Puerto Rican flags, danced and sang the hits of the island's superstar outside the Coliseo de Puerto Rico, Jose Miguel Agrelot. Bad Bunny's 30-show run makes him the first artist ever to headline a residency of this scale at the 18,000-seat venue. Still to come on DD India News Hour. In Wimbledon, women's singles, Iga Swiatek of Poland faces Amanda Anisimova of the US today. Chile calls for no obstacles to copper trade as the red metal is key to green transition. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. European Union is bracing for a possible letter from Trump with details on fresh tariffs. The EU initially hoped to reach a comprehensive trade deal, but after months of difficult talks, a person with knowledge of the US-EU talks said that it was hard to predict if the bloc would receive a letter announcing more tariffs or when any agreement might be finalized. Pharmaceuticals and autos are among the areas in focus between US and Europe. The rate for the EU proposed on the April 2 Liberation Day was double the rate currently faced by the bloc. Chilean President Gabriel Boric on Friday called on the international community not to place obstacles or penalties on copper, as it is a key metal for decarbonization and the fight against climate change. The statement comes after this week's announcement by US President Donald Trump that he will impose a 50% tariff on the red metal. Boric also said that the metal is vital to confronting the climate crisis and helping to replace fossil fuels. Chile is a major supplier of copper cathodes to the United States, although most of its production is directed to China and other Asian markets. Day 3 of the third test between India and England at Lord's is underway, and India are aiming to reduce the lead held by England with opener KL Rahul and vice-captain Rishabh Pant at the crease. The duo takes India past 200-run mark. KL Rahul has set his sights on a second test century at Lord's, having completed his 50 on day 2. Earlier, on day 2, a century by Joe Root helped England manage a first innings total of 387 as India pace spearhead Jasprit Bumrah took a 5-wicket haul. However, the day was marred by the drama of ball changing that saw India captain Shubman Gill multiple times approaching the umpires, pointing at the ball and urging them to inspect it. Narayan joins us now from the newsroom in Delhi. Narayan, is India being able to fight England's pace attack on day 3 of the third test?
Right now, if we take a look at the match, the way things are happening is in India's favour, and the way Rishabh Pant and KL Rahul are taking the Indian inning forward, it is looking that India will take a handsome lead here. Right now, the way things are happening, India has crossed the 200-run mark, and if things goes like this only, definitely we have a strong batting lineup after Rishabh Pant and KL Rahul. We have Washington Sundar, also Nitish Kumar Reddy and Ravin Jadeja. So the responsibility for the duo is to play a big partnership, and we know that last time around in 2021 KL Rahul scored a century at the Lords, and he should do that thing again here at the Lords. And Rishabh Pant too, we know that what kind of miraculous inning he has played for India in the overseas condition, helping India to win the Test series in Australia too, and even in the England in the last series, last time around when India was in, he was crucial to win few matches for the India. All in all, a fantastic day ahead for the India, and they should play the basic cricket, traditional cricket. But I want to mention here the most important thing in this test match for India was the way they dominated the English team. Especially, they have shattered their arrogance of the baseball. And if you take a look in the previous test match, the English crowd, the English player was saying that the boring cricket for the team India, but the way they shifted the gear, the English team shifted the gear in the third test match at the Lords, they were back to the basics. If you take a look, record of the English team in the last 3 years in the baseball era, their run rate was around 5 in every match in the baseball era. But in the last match, we saw their run rate came down to 3.02. And we saw the Shubman Gill saying, the English player, that I want to see the entertaining cricket. Where is that entertaining cricket? And why are you playing the baseball? Even the Mohammad Siraj, the Indian pacer, was saying to the Joe Root, baseball, come on, I want to see you. So this is the win of the Indian cricket team, that the way they changed the philosophy of the English cricketer, they brought them back to the basic, back them to the basics of the cricket, the traditional cricket. played. So kudos to this Indian team, especially Jasprit Bumrah, the way he controlled the English batters. And yesterday he took his 5-wicket haul, the 13th in the overseas condition and overall the 15th. And the stature of the Bumrah, we say that the way he is controlling the English bowler with a disciplined line and length, because there is no, we can say that juice in the pitch, nothing is there for the pace bowlers in the pitch. But despite nothing is there for the cricketers, for the bowlers in the pitch, the way he bowled is exceptionally well.
So it's a good start for India all in all on day 3 of the 3rd test match between India and England. We'll leave it at that. Narayan joining us from the New Delhi newsroom. More sports news. A new women's champion will be crowned at Wimbledon 2025 as 5-time Grand Slam winner Iga Swiatek faces off against Amanda Anisimova in a blockbuster final. As both players gear up for the final, the centre court is ready to witness blockbuster showdown. Here's a report.
Long known for her dominance on clay, Swiatek has reshaped her game this season, working specifically on her movement and serve to finally find comfort on grass. After reaching her first grass final in Bad Homburg and now her second here at Wimbledon, the signs are clear. She's more than just a clay court queen. When Iga Swiatek walks out for Saturday's final, she'll be chasing her 6th Grand Slam title, but her very first at Wimbledon. Swiatek has dropped just one set all tournament, that too in round 2. A win on Saturday would make her the fastest woman to 100 Grand Slam match wins since Serena Williams in 2004. But standing in her way is one of the most compelling stories of the season, Amanda Anisimova. A year ago, Anisimova didn't even qualify for Wimbledon. Ranked outside the top 180 and returning from a break from tennis, few saw her resurgence coming. But since then, she has won a WTA 1000 title in Doha, reached another final in Canada, and is now into her first ever Grand Slam final. The American powerhouse has shown resilience, and on Saturday, she'll break into the top 10 for the first time. She arrives at the final on the back of a stunning upset over world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka in the semis. For the 8th consecutive year, Wimbledon will crown a new women's champion. The final will crown a new queen of centre court, whether it's Iga Swiatek completing her Grand Slam set or Amanda Anisimova becoming the first American Wimbledon winner since 2016. Sports Desk, DD India.
While in the men's finals, Jannik Sinner will face Carlos Alcaraz on Sunday. World number 1 Jannik Sinner was a dominant straight set winner over 7-time champion Novak Djokovic. This is Sinner's 5th consecutive win against Djokovic, and he will bid for a 3rd title in a row now. While Carlos Alcaraz is into a 3rd successive men's singles final at Wimbledon and will bid for a 3rd straight title on Sunday, he defeated American Taylor Fritz in 4 sets in today's first semi-final. That's it in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. This is Munmun Bhattacharya from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.